Thank you. How's everybody doing tonight? Feeling good? Good to be here? So let's start this off. I have one question. How many of you have been so misunderstood and felt that you're misunderstood? Raise your hands. That's a lot. That's pretty much everybody. So how do you feel that one day it just changed your direction and you just didn't know where to go? You didn't know what to do. So for me, in my life, that started as an infant, and then it progressed. So how it started as an infant, I am an adopted child. My parents were living under community circumstances, of generational circumstances where they had to make a choice. Fortunately for me, I had a mother who gave birth to me, and she made a choice that impacted the rest of my life and influenced all of the choices I would make. Some of them good, some of them not so great, but in the end, it set a standard for me that I wanted to live to. So what she did is she chose to give me up for adoption. In South Korea, they had a 2-child rule. And because my parents were not married, they were both of different social statures in life, and I was born a girl. I was a bastard child, I was a girl, and I wasn't wanted. But my mother made a choice for that for me to give me a chance at life, whether it was still in South Korea or it was here in the US. Great thing was, I got to have the American dream. I had a beautiful childhood, and most of all, I had a family who chose me, a family who wanted me. And she gave that to me. So there was nothing bad I could ever say about her or the choices that she made for me, because that to me is unconditional love. As a mother, as a wife, as a leader, as the head of a business, all of that, that matters. Something unconditional, that matters, and that should be spoken about. What else should be spoken about is how our society dictates things, and this is how I lost my direction. I used to be what I thought was on top. I had achieved all the things. I was the first college graduate out of 5 kids. I am what my mother calls her angry middle child. My brother will tell you, no, she's probably a commie. He keeps making this joke of, we're gonna know one day when you walk in with that black suitcase with the red star, you're gonna mean business, and that's just gonna be it. And that's how I lived my life. Everything was all business. I strove to be the best child, the favorite child, because it was always a competition. Then as an adult, everything changed. Everything always changes. But at 19, I made adult choices, and I ended up becoming a mom. And that was really hard because my life stopped. I was now dependent, this little boy was very dependent on me for every single thing. And at 19, I was a child having children. That was a lot. I was still finishing college. So in the end, trying to be a single mother, coming out of a relationship that I had absolutely no business being in, I had to make a choice. And I said, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. This is not fair. This isn't the life I want to give my child. Instinct told me what I was choosing, what my family was giving me, and the support my parents were giving me was to make the same decision that my mother gave for me. So my mom and dad have raised my son for the last 20 years, and it's been beautiful because unconditionally, in the fact that they chose me as their daughter, they chose him too. They didn't have to. They weren't obligated to. But it didn't matter his circumstances. It didn't matter mine. He was loved unconditionally before he was even born. And that's a blessing. So with that, I decided that I was going to continue life just as I was told, as was expected. I finished college. I got married a few years later, and it was a really good relationship up until it wasn't. So turn around, I am still a young mother with very, very young children. I ended up having 2 more boys, and they are great. And it was trying to figure out, where do I go from here? And that was a point where I got into my life that it wasn't about me. I put everything on hold. My dreams, my aspirations, and all I wanted to do was survive. I didn't want to become a statistic like a lot of single moms had been because of what? Society. the pressures of it. So I worked 2 to 3 jobs. I waitressed, I bartended. I had support, which a lot of moms don't. A lot of single moms with 2 very young kids. I had the support of my family. I was still close with my siblings. I had their support. My sister and I were back and forth babysitting. And it just kept continuing. And we were stable, we were good, but I wanted something more. So I decided, out of all of those 3 jobs, I had an amazing person coming into my life, a loan officer, and she helped me put all 3 of those incomes together. At 26 years old, I bought my first house by myself because somebody believed in me, because somebody made a choice to say, I see you. I see your hard work, no matter how small you think it is. It's big. I made it so we weren't a statistic. 5 years later, I opened my first restaurant, which was something that I always wanted to do. I believe that food is one of those things, and it's actually, in my opinion, the #1 thing that can bring everybody together. Let's think about Thanksgiving, guys. And it did. Different cultures, different people from different walks and talks. And what did they do? They gathered around one thing, and it was food. Supposedly, that's how the story goes, right? But that's something for us to believe in. So I did that, and it was great. I professed my love and my passion for life through good food, because I don't know about you, but I am very picky about where I go to eat, who prepares my food, and I am willing to pay that thing for a really good meal, because then it's the experience and I'm feeding myself. So all of that aside, keep going, everything is great. So, but like Kristen said, where's the crisis? So what happened was COVID happened. By this time, I was in another relationship, about to get married for the 3rd time in my life, but I truly believe that God had somebody out there for me. I had a partner. I was going to have that. And so I achieved it. And my husband is an amazing guy. Unfortunately, he's not here right now, but that's for another time. So we continued to build. We opened our 2nd location. And then in 2019, I decided, hey, we're going to take this one step further, and I'm going to open my 3rd location in my hometown. Very small bistro. I lived in a town at the base of Mount St. Helens in Washington State with a town of 2,000 people. And it was great. And this is where it doesn't get great. COVID happened. So next thing I turn around, I can't work. I don't know how to support my family. Fortunately for us, my husband has a really great job, and he was considered essential. So that's where life goes. He was gone, still doing his routine every day. And then I'm sitting at home with these kids like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are we here? I'm not a teacher. At that time, I really didn't think I was a leader, but things come out, and I learned I was a leader through action, through my behaviors, through my day-to-day living and my structure and the discipline. So my kids did pretty okay during COVID. I, however, did not, but I hid it. I didn't know how to be a stay-at-home parent. I didn't know how to be with my family 24/7. I didn't know how to work. I didn't know how to support myself. I didn't know how to keep going with that. So what happens when we get out of our norm and there's nothing we can do about it? We get down. We get depressed. We ended up having to move a couple years later, and then we ended up in Florida, and it's been great ever since. But there was also a catastrophe. Through all of these transitions and things that were out of our control, giving up our business during COVID, there was a lot of rioting and a lot of damage in the cities, and it just became not what was good for us anymore. So I walked away, and that was really hard because I had to learn a whole new, different way of doing life, because for 12 years, I was my own boss. I did my own thing. My pride came from my ability to take care of everybody else. So we flash forward to just a couple years ago. My children are 15, 17, 21, and my stepson is 26. Nobody needs me. Nobody really needs me. They drive themselves, they ride their bikes, they're self-sufficient, they have jobs. We're getting ready to exit into the next chapter of life where the youngest ones are phasing out. So as a woman, as a mother, as their whole support, and the thing that really holds my family together, what did I do? Which direction am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to answer the questions to everybody else when I can't even answer them for myself? So it got really dark for a minute. I kind of shut down because I couldn't answer these things for myself. I felt small, unheard, like I did not matter, like my life and my role anymore in my home, in the job I was working at the time, didn't matter. I had no purpose. So I did what I thought was naturally my direction, and I wanted to disappear. I wanted everything to stop and somebody to need me again. I needed a purpose. I needed something to do. I had worked in the food industry for almost my entire adult life, but I knew that wasn't the direction I wanted to go. I couldn't put a pinpoint on it. I couldn't nail it in the head. I could not answer my own questions. So I did what a lot of people do. We're all guilty of it. And if somebody tells you they're not guilty of this, they're lying, straight up. I got into my own feelings. I started feeling sorry for myself because I didn't feel like it was enough. I didn't feel like anything I was doing enough. No matter how clean my house was, how organized life was, all of the bills were paid, the kids were happy, my husband was happy, everybody had what they needed and what they wanted. But I didn't. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. Most of all, I didn't know who I was anymore. And that needed to change. Unfortunately, I decided my only out was not to be there. Again, I wanted to disappear. It's not that I wanted to die. I didn't know how to do life anymore. I didn't know how to do anything for myself anymore, for my family. So naturally, I just thought, well, they don't need me anymore. I just don't need to be here. So I drove to the beach because that was a place that always gave me solace. All I found was guilt. I felt guilty for even being there, for walking away from the house and thinking, I just can't do life anymore. The place that used to bring me my peace brought me more sadness. I knew something needed to change. So I drove home. And when I got home, there was probably about 5, 6 sheriffs and an ambulance. The fire truck had just left. And it was almost like a sense of relief when I pulled up to my driveway. I got out of my car and I did what I thought I was expected to do. I walked gracefully up to my garage, kind of looking around like, what are y'all doing here? You know, what happened? And in that moment where I thought everybody's eyes were on me, everybody was judging me, the thing running through my head was, oh my God, I hope this doesn't end up on Facebook. And in that moment, I reached my garage, and the deputy, she was the only female there, but she just walked up and she said the one thing that nobody had asked me, and I really can't tell you how long it had been since somebody asked me this. Hey, are you okay? How many times do we go through something and we just, those words, are you okay? Absolutely the hell not, but let's do something. So that's not what I said, but in that instant I collapsed. I dropped so hard to the concrete and I just cried. And I cried. I'd been crying all day, but I really cried. I really let myself feel all of the weight, all of the pressure, all of the guilt, everything that I had been feeling for days, weeks, probably years, just came out with somebody just asking me if I was okay. And I said, no. I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this. I can't operate like this because I don't even know how I'm even functioning. I guess breathing is a normal thing. Keep your heart rate going. Our body naturally does it. But everything else, out the window. I had no idea what to do. So in a sense, something I never asked before, I said I needed help. I didn't know what direction to go. So I went. I went and talked to somebody in a place that I never thought I would end up. I just sat there and I talked to the nurse. She did a check. She did an evaluation. And I was like, no, I'm not okay. But then she looked at me. She's like, I think you're okay. She just said, I think you're tired. I think you need a starting point. She gave me all of these resources that I didn't even know existed. I mean, I knew there was therapy, I knew it was help, I knew there was emergency services, but I really didn't know that one-on-one somebody would actually take the time and just sit with me, let me word vomit, let me get every little and big thing out. And for the first time in a really long time, I didn't want to not talk about myself. I didn't want to not talk about my story, about my problems, because I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I had my own business and my own things. We're not supposed to do that, right? But again, who tells us that? Society. Women are amazing, strong creatures. In that moment, I learned I am an amazing, strong creature. Life had not been kind to me in the beginning, but I had an opportunity to change my story. So 3 days later, after I went home and really got to sit in with my feelings, I was embarrassed, I felt guilty, I was ashamed, I didn't know, I felt like I needed to say sorry. And that's just how it went. So 3 days later, I was in a car, driving myself to Fort Lauderdale, and I checked in for the craziest, wildest, best 28 days of my life on a decision that I made for myself. And I can tell you, it was amazing, because I used to choose everybody else, fixing everybody else's problems, taking care of everybody else, making sure everybody else had what they need. And I used to believe that as long as everybody else was taken care of, and that I was doing my job. That was my purpose. But I forgot about me. And in the end, domino effect, I lost myself. In that 28 days, when I went to mental health, trauma-based inpatient, natural instinct kicked in, and it took about a week and a half for me to really get into it and fully release. To say, no, that's okay, just kidding, I really don't need this. Or, no, this isn't for me. I had to give others grace. I had to really get rid of being judgmental, and not just for others, myself. Stop comparing myself, stop comparing my story, because in the end, trauma is trauma, depression is depression. Life's for everybody. It might show up in different ways, in a different journey, but in the end, we're all still a human. We all still have problems. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got something going on. So when I fully released myself to giving in to doing the things, not just doing the work, because it looked good on paper for a minute, but I really did the work. I had to be honest. Not like I was lying to myself, but I had to really be honest. Really say, yeah, I'm not okay. And this is why. I had to stop sugarcoating things, but I had to stop making myself small. I used to think that my problems aren't as bad as somebody else's, so we don't need to talk about it. We don't need to hear it, because I can mask this and I can fix it. I know I can fix it. I didn't know how to fix it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been where I was. So once I was able to do that and put a name to what was going on, I remembered, wait, I'm a people too. I matter too. My voice matters, my problems matter, how I'm feeling matters. And it's okay if nobody else cares, because I care now. That was the thing. I had forgotten how to choose myself. I had really forgotten how to do anything for myself. I used to love being, I still do love it, actually. I love being a support. I love being there and being able to be relied on and being a part of things. And that's what I wanted. I just wanted to be a part of something that mattered. But I was already doing it. Once I hit that truth and I started to see my own self-worth, and that was a journey. Because again, I just wanted to be small. I wanted to be heard, though. I wanted to be seen. But I didn't want to be the forefront. I didn't want the spotlight. I just wanted to feel human again. So, and my family had to learn that. The people around me had to learn that. But I also had to learn how to speak again. I had to learn how to be honest with not just myself, with others. And saying, that's not okay, or yeah, that's great. I had to stop conceding and stepping into the background and placing others before me, because I was gonna lose myself again. In that time, my family had to learn how to survive without me for 28 days. And let me tell you, I am so proud of them for that. I came home, my house was perfectly clean. The fridge was stocked. Both vehicles had gas. Pax, who is the only one who lives with us now, He was doing great. They had a schedule. They had a menu. They had a running grocery list. I'm like, it took me having to break down, lose my shit entirely, drama, call the cops. All the things I had been saying for years. But they figured it out. And they apologized. Listen, y'all, I live in a house full of men. I am the only woman in my house. So I was just like, "Aw, you do like me." And it gave me a sense of renewed soul, love, something for myself, because in the end, I always tell people, I don't want to be a leader, I don't want to be a manager, I don't want to be in charge, I just want to be a part of it, thank you very much. But I did lead them, and I needed to own that. I needed to recognize that, because through my actions in doing something super brave for myself, I chose myself and I showed them, you can choose me too. You can choose yourself too. And I've seen growth, I've seen honesty, I've seen compassion and grace, and that started with me. That started in my core the day that I decided to choose myself again. And that was my direction, and that was my purpose. It wasn't that I lost it, I lost myself on that journey. I was always there. I was always gonna make choices for myself that were gonna be good, that were gonna be great. But in the end, I needed to believe that. So I guess here today, I'm here to tell you that it's okay to choose yourself. It's essential. It is a life-driving force, because in the end, when you can unconditionally choose yourself, the people that are there, that they say they love you and they show you that they love you, you'll see their unconditional love for you too. So, if ever you're needing a direction and you feel lost, you can always choose you. You're right there. You can't run from yourself. You can't hide from yourself. You can get in fights with yourself. I mean, that's, you want to knock down, drag it out, there you go. But in the end, you are your own direction. You are your own entity, unique, intentional, and it's always going to be okay. So, thank you for letting me share our story tonight.
Give it up for Ty Bowen.